Have you ever heard somebody say, I was born in this. I don't have no choice. Some of y'all are dealing with situations right now that you didn't put yourself in, and every day you feel it. Today you got many men locked up in prison and in the grave, all over something they never started.
That money ain't gonna save you, but Jesus Christ can. The world ain't gonna save you, but Jesus Christ can. That weed ain't gonna save you, but Jesus Christ can. And that blicky ain't gonna save you, but Jesus Christ can. That liquor ain't gonna save you, but Jesus Christ can. That Buddha ain't gonna save you, but Jesus Christ can. That evil eye can't save you, but Jesus Christ can. And the enemy can't save you, but Jesus Christ can. We can't satisfy the flesh, it's never satisfied. Jesus Christ, the only way to life, let's keep that in mind. Life is too short, we never know who really next in line. Christ is coming back, there ain't no time to sit and fantasize. I used to love the world, but let it...
Have you ever heard somebody say, I was born in this. I don't have no choice. Some of y'all are dealing with situations right now that you didn't put yourself in, and every day you feel it. Today you got many men locked up in prison and in the grave, all over something they never started. They inherited a beef way before them. That's called a generational curse. And this generational curse is part of a covenant. And in places like Los Angeles and Chicago, you got many a young man who are born into an environment where it's a whole bunch of chaos going on every day, and they get involved in this. But I want to ask you a question. Can this cycle ever be broken? If this cycle cannot be broken, do we have to remain in this generational curse? One of the things that was inherited from the generational curse, that I like to call it, is man warring with one another all over a confused mind, a misunderstanding, and in actuality, part of the curse that a neighborhood, a city, a territory will inherit is that they will destroy their own people. Before I go any further, check this out.
As a gangbanger, right, when you go on a mission, when you looking for your so-called enemy, you driving through a different hood, down the street, you know, it's an invisible line, you cross this street, now you in another hood, and you hunting. And when you looking, you gonna pass up the dude that's dressed square, right? You gonna pass up a dude from a different race. When you see somebody that's dressed like you dress, and got the walk like you got, and got the body language like you gonna say, there you go, get him. And that's deep. Whew, you know what I'm saying? When you really unpack that,
that's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? You looking for yourself just on the other side of town, and you gonna hop out and attack him and try to down him in a real way. Being caught up in gangbanging culture, you don't think that deep. You just think of, these niggas came through and shot the hood up, we about to go back through there and return the favor.
A mind that is constructed to think a certain kind of way will always go that way until they have been woke. They will always think according to their environment, according to the patterns that have been structured in their mind. And when we look at what Nipsey was saying in this video, he was speaking some heavy truth. When there is self-hatred of oneself, he doesn't see the value in his neighbor. But if someone who sees a picture of themselves in somebody else, they won't too much have a problem with that person. But when you don't value yourself and you only see yourself worth the things that are in your environment, and you're willing to put your life on the line for it, is going to show up in how you deal with other people. How you deal with other people is a self-reflection of how you see yourself, of your character. Let me jump into point 1 of this message. Understand, covenants outlive the people who made them. A man can be born innocent into a system that is already under judgment. Cities don't drift into decay. They inherit consequences from long-standing agreements with sin and disobedience. And this is why I said here a few minutes ago, you got many a man today locked up in prison and in the cemetery. Why? Because they inherited a beef that they did not start. And because of that, what they have taken on is not just as simple as just saying yes. It's a power in the air. And it's a strong pull. It's a strong pull. And I'm going to give you some scriptures before we walk through this right here some more and expound upon this. We are told in the book of Ezekiel chapter 20, and you can read verses 5 and 6, and it tells us that iniquity visits generations when patterns remain unbroken. So a pattern can be broken, but until that pattern is broken, generations will keep walking in that curse. It's the ripple effect. Things that you grow up with. And this is why a lot of times escaping that, it means going outside that environment. And even as I think about this right here, it's interesting that Nipsey Hussle, in saying this right here, he became a victim of the very own thing that he spoke of right here. Our fathers, Lamentation tells us, Lamentations chapter 5 verse 7, our fathers sinned and are no more, and we bear their iniquities. Scripture tells us that the father shall not inherit the sins of the son, and the son shall not inherit the sins of the father. Yet we see from these scriptures that these curses take place. So what does that mean when it says that the son shall not inherit the sins of the father? When they make a decision to break that pattern. When you look at Los Angeles, when you look at LA, there's a curse in that city. It's cursed. All the blood that was spilled and all the sacrifices that was done, you still seen the ripple effect of that right there. And one, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about with so many people putting stuff on their homies and putting stuff on people, and people say that's not real? Could it be that a whole town burned up because you got people who are playing demonic games and putting stuff on people? Could it be? One covenant breach brought consequences on the whole community. And this is when you look in the book of Joshua chapter 7. There was a man named Achan. And because Achan went out and he was dealing with wrong dealings and dealing with the enemy, and he was bringing the stuff from the enemy's camp back into their camp. And when you do that, it represents a form of contact. And some people today, they are walking in a form of contact because of the things that they are wearing. And those things right there is a sign of indication to the enemy. And Satan uses those things to ruin people's lives. Let me tell y'all something here, and I want you to be listening to me. When we see things play out before us, with our physical eyes, these things are spiritual warfare. We're fighting against principalities. And this is why until your eyes are woke, until you have been awakened to really understand what's going on, you will keep seeing yourself going back and forth and just see regular gang wars. This has been taking place in the urban community because it was engineered from the beginning. Many a young man came together from the beginning because they want to feel like they want to belong to something. They want to be a part of something. And then after a while, as they begin to do things in their own communities, feel like they were protecting themselves against other communities, things begin to happen. And when you sacrifice someone, you begin to get repetition. You begin to get power. That's Satan thanking you for sacrificing a soul for him. And so what happens? You get fame. You get money. But in the long run, it all leads to a person being lost. It's called slavery. Still taking place today because what was engineered a long time ago is taking place right now. I want to go into the second part, the second point of this right here. Cursed cities produce fearful men. What do I mean by that? How can a cursed city produce fearful men? This is where you get those who they operate out of survival. I could remember when it would be street wars going on, and I would come out, and you know the pressure is going on. Everybody is, armed up, and everybody's alarmed. And during this time, you got people walking around, and they're scared. I mean, they put on this bravery and all those different things, but the reality is they're in survival mode. And this survival mode leads to a person reacting and doing what they call protecting themselves. This whole thing has been set up. When a city is under covenantal consequences, the curse shows up in the man first. It shows up in the men first. Not spiritually dramatic. Like I said, we see these things from a physical standpoint, but psychology, relationally, and economically, and all these things about survival. And when you are dealing with psychology, you are dealing with how the mind psychologically is addicted. And that's what's my thing. I could leave the neighborhood physically, but the psychological addiction to that lifestyle had me stuck. And the only way that I was able to get away was when I really experienced Jesus. You hear a lot of people talk about Jesus and just be good and things like that, but it's really, you really come in contact with him. You come in contact with him because you begin to meet someone who can identify with the things that you have dealt with. Being betrayed. I mean, when you really meditating on these things right here. Going against the grain. And recognizing that the only way that one is going to escape this right here is by the choices that one makes. The fear didn't come from nowhere. It comes because it's created in the environment. This curse that is over a city that we so often inherit, I told you, is because of a covenant, an agreement between individuals. How many people right now today never even met some of the people that they were defending because they were connected to something they were connected to? Again, this is called a covenant. Deuteronomy chapter 28, and you can read verses 16 through 19, but it deals with the curses and the blessings. As a matter of fact, I would read the whole thing, and I would begin reading from 16 all the way down, and that's where you start with the curses. But it says, cursed in the city, what does it do? It affects the fruit and the labor of generations. It affects generations. Because patterns are formed. Curses, they show up in how you do things, in how you think, and that's how they are so effective. Cities, they fall when judgment remains unsolved. When there is no vision, when vision is absent, when there's no prophetic vision, there's no restraints kept. When people don't have no prophetic vision, no outlook, no end goal. This is why in the last message I dealt with structure. When there is no end goal, you're stuck with these systems. That's where prophetic vision comes in, because it's a real thing. I was looking at, I'll be looking at these gang channels and stuff and seeing what's really going on in the culture and stuff, because I'll be praying for these brothers. And I'm looking at one guy, he's Spody Face from a neighborhood out in LA. And he's talking about the warfare and things like that, and he wants to do righteous. And you got other people who are talking to him about the politics. And as I was thinking about that, he was saying this is warfare and he don't care about any of that. And he's making it clear now, because you have to make a decided decision as to where you stand if you want to have God's backing. We cannot be defending a covenant that has brought forth has destroyed a whole bunch of lives, and then at the same time be standing on a rock. With God, it doesn't work like that. So let's talk about inherited consequences and how they still involve personal decisions. This is the last and final point. A man can inherit a broken environment, but he decides whether he stays aligned with it. Understanding the curse is not an excuse to live under it. Deliverance begins when man recognizes false covenants. Reject inherited identities and choose alignment with God's order instead of city culture, street codes, and the survival logic. Survival. Looking tough but uncomfortable, just trying to survive. It's about personal responsibility. And I do want to emphasize this. When we talk about individuals, we all are responsible as individuals. But no one is ignoring the fact that we are shaped by culture, by family, and many of us were placed in situations that are tough, unbearable. And we feel that we have been put at a disadvantage. And so I'm saying when opportunity presents itself, don't ignore that. Each man is responsible for his own decisions. Ezekiel 18 and verse 20. Life and death is still a choice when it comes to certain things. But with the curse out there, I understand that a lot of innocent souls are taken because, again, the curse is in the land. There are cities that are cursed because of all the blood that has been spilled. So if you're going to be transformed, it's going to require you rejecting certain things that create certain outcomes. So in closing, I will leave you with this. The choices that you make today will follow you. The choices you make today. It's not anything magic about it. And I know there may be challenges. But don't ignore your mind when it's telling you now, before you make a choice on the other side of where you are at, and it be too late.
You say you're blessed, you say you're chosen, but baby, look deeper at what doors are open. If it doesn't